Hello everyone, we are here to talk about material resistance and more precisely to correct the second exercise of the first test. So we can see here that we apply a stress to a sample. So we apply a force on specific surfaces of the solid. This matrix here gives us the nature of the stress, but we have to do a bit of calculation to extract its components. So first, you have to remember that the stress tensor is a 3x3 matrix with 9 components, of course. So let me draw the matrix for you. You have here sigma xx, sigma yx, zx, and I will draw the more important. Here in the middle, sigma yy, and at this place, sigma zz. So you have to keep in mind that we want to calculate the forces and show their directions. So we must calculate the stress vectors, which are given by this formula. With T the stress vector, sigma the stress tensor, so the matrix that we show before, and n the unitary vectors, like for example ux, which will be equal to, in our drawing, 100, like that. So because we have two faces along the x-axis, you can see that in the calculus that I will show you right now, you can put a plus or minus in the unitary vector, like that. So we replace all the terms on our matrix, like this, and we are going to see if any stress is applied on the faces along the x-axis. So as I said before, the plus or the minus, because we can put a force over there or over there. And after a matrix multiplication, we can see that the stress vector is equal to 0, which means that this component is equal to 0. You can see that this is fairly logical, that because we have this component equal to 0, that we don't have any forces applied on the faces along the x-axis. So at the end we have a force along the x-axis which is equal to 0. Now let's do the same thing for the two other couple of faces, and of course we are going to take the faces along the y-axis, so the faces over there. Well, the same method is applied. You calculate this matrix times the vector, the unitary vector along the y-axis, and this time you don't have something equal to 0. You have something equal to this. You have 10 kilopascals along the y-axis. So of course, because that is a pressure, we can calculate the force, because as you know, the pressure is equal to a force divided by a surface. So we can say that a force is equal to pressure times a surface. So we just have to calculate the surface along the faces here. So we have the length and the width, which will be 50 centimeters times 10 centimeters. So the final calculus will be the stress vector times 50 centimeters times 10 centimeters. And this will finally lead to this vector, which gives us the force in Newton along the y-axis applied because of the stress of this component. Of course, sigma yy is responsible of the stress along the y-axis and only this one. So now we are going to do the same thing on the faces along the z-axis. So I will not develop the calculus as I've done before, but I will show you here the results. So as usual, the stress tensor, this time the unitary vector along the z-axis, and this is equal to this vector, and after the calculus of the fourth with the surfaces of the faces along the z-axis, so those faces here, we will find that the force is equal to this vector. And this is, of course, along the z-axis. So this is the sigma zz component. Now, we want to represent the forces on the drawing. You can see that sigma yy is positive and sigma zz is negative. So this is clearly for sigma yy, it's an extension. So you can have the forces like that. And for sigma zz, this is a compression like this. So you have here the forces.